It's Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
Six the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It is a Monday. And man, do we have a lot to talk about today.
Today's show is sponsored by Armpit Hair Dye. Because waving goodbye should be more colorful.
Remember, that's actually a thing that people have been doing. Also remember, whenever some big news event happens, usually the first things that you hear are wrong. I've been saying that for decades.
Warning, this show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change, free thinking, cigar smoking, short people, rubber chickens, Karen's bureaucracy, liberal buzzwords, tour runs, traffic, toilets, terrible jokes, and more. No apologies will be issued. Guest callers may express any opinion they want without fear of being canceled. Unless you're a loudmouth jerk like Dave, then Glenn will hang up on you. Strap in, hold on to your coffee, and feel free to participate.
This disclaimer does not refer to every person named Dave, just one particular Dave from San Francisco. We know a lot of Daves. They call this show all the time, and they're great people. So don't call this program and complain that we use your name. That would be a real Dave move, Dave.
Now, before I get into this, I thought I'll just go ahead and get it out of the way. For you Trump supporters out there, all rise, hats off, hands over your hearts. You may be seated. Feel better now? Okay, like everybody else, I was out I turned my garage into sort of a man cave with a couch and all of that, and I hear screaming from inside the house, "Hey, come here, you got to see this." And that's where I walked inside and took a look at what was happening on television. And one of those things I think we can say nobody wanted to see happen, but then again, a lot of us weren't surprised when it did. There's Donald Trump holding his ear, ducking down under the podium like the Secret Service had told him to do, and the audience behind him in panic, and we're all wondering what's going on. And they're playing that over and over and over again on television because at this point they don't have any other information. They just keep replaying the same video over and over again. All right. As time goes on, we find out there's one shooter. Now, at this point, this is where I often say, when we have an event like this, when you're watching the news, the first thing you hear is often not true. In fact, you're going to hear a lot of things up front that are not true. And that's because mostly the confusion of it all. If reporters are running around trying to figure out what's going on, and everybody's confused, so the story's usually wrong. After a while, the pieces start coming together. In fact, when you first saw the shooting, heard about and saw the shooting, you see Trump grab his ear and dive down the Secret Service. I was really impressed when he said, "Let me get my shoes." And then he's fist pumping on the way down. And there's all sorts of people in the crowd screaming USA. That one guy who was flipping off the middle finger and cussing at the television screen. Whatever those people were thinking and whatever you were thinking at the time and what I was thinking, I had to remind myself, we're assuming a lot here. We're probably completely wrong. There was a lot of emotional reaction. I had friends of mine. They got very emotional about this. And again, my answer was, but whatever you're assuming at this point, you're probably wrong because we don't have any information. Now, as the day went on, the news just kept dragging and dragging and dragging. I eventually just shut it off and went off into something else. And every once in a while, I would go back and check in again to see, do they have anything new? Well, they might have a little tidbit here or there, but for the most part, no. I eventually went to bed, and you know what time I go to bed. I go to bed at 6 a.m. A.M., did I say a.m.? P.m. I go to bed at 6 p.m. because I get up so early. So I go to bed. I don't care. Is Trump going to make a statement? I know Biden did. I don't care. I went to bed. And I'm waiting, sleeping, wondering as I went to sleep, what are they going to have for me when I get up in the morning? So in the morning, my morning, not yours, you're still in bed, I turn on the news, flip through some different channels, and they're all doing the same thing. They have nothing new. They're bringing the so-called experts on. They're showing that video over and over again. They haven't changed anything in hours because they have nothing to new. But nothing's new. But they just keep running the same, and bringing on so-called experts who don't know anything either. And these so-called experts are filling airtime. And this is where a lot of the speculation from the news media comes in, which feeds more speculation of people online. People online making all sorts of statements. If you go back to, let's say, if you're on Facebook and read the comments that people were making, all sorts of assumptions about what happened. And the vast majority of people are completely wrong because, again, when you watched it, you saw it, you assumed. This is where, and it's difficult. I even had to tell myself a few times, stop, don't assume anything, wait. Because we don't know. As time went on, we learned a few things. Here's what we know so far about the shooter. Young man, 20 years old. People who knew him, well, he was an outcast, he was a loner. A lot of people who did know him and try to make friends with him just seemed to think, yeah, he was a little off. As far as political points of view, he didn't seem to have any. Now, I know, yes, he had joined the Republican Party, but he had donated money to liberal causes. I don't think he really had any political points of view at that point, from what we know of him so far. When the FBI went to check his house out, what we know so far about where he lived. I've seen reports about bomb-making material and guns. My guess, and I'm using that word very carefully at this point, my guess, based on what information we have, is a lone nutball who is going to do something. He could have shut up a school. He could have shut up a mall. But Trump showed up in town, so he decided to go for that. There's all sorts of things he could have done, but that's what he went for. So for those people who are looking for political motivations, at this point, I'm looking at it thinking, probably not. Probably just some nutball who was going to do something bad at some point. This was just the opportunity. Now, I've said that, but I'm also going to sit back and wait. I'm going to put that off to the side for more. This is where I have to tell myself again, I'm assuming this based on the information I have right now, but I need to wait until they learn more. Because again, the first thing that everybody assumed was probably wrong. All right. Now, the rhetoric will continue. Let's get to the rhetoric real quick, because I think this is very important. Biden and Trump both have made statements about we need to tone this down. And right away when that happens, finger pointing gets started. And my answer is to everybody, stop. Because when I tune in Fox News and I tune in MSNBC, I hear the same kind of garbage just from a different political point of view. When I read comments online from people who are very politically active, I don't care what point of view they're coming from, I read all sorts of outrageous comments from every and there's more than two political points of view, but I read all sorts of outrageous comments from every point of view. And it has been boiling up and getting worse and worse and worse. Okay. There are those who will complain about the kinds of things that Trump will say that can be outrageous, and granted, yes, he does. And then I can point to the kinds of things that Biden says, which are just as outrageous. And let's talk Ocasio-Cortez. And I can point to some Republicans who, we've got to dial it back. I think this lone nutball would have done something somewhere at some point, in my opinion, right now. I mean, ask me in a week or so when we get new information if I still think the same thing, but that's what I think right now. But the tone politically in this country, from all sides, needs to just stop. Now, Trump has released a statement about the Republican convention. He made a decision over the weekend that he's changing the tone of the convention. And the whole tone of the convention is not going to be so much about Biden, but it's going to be more about bringing the nation together. And he sees this as an opportunity to do it, which I think on his part is a good call. But all right, more about that in just a moment. 6:16 is the time. Wake up.
Take Glenn anywhere with the
Everyone
Wake Up
has the right
Wyoming
to
mobile app.
communicate.
Wake Up Wyoming
Later,
with Glenn Woods
he was able
on
to
AM
travel
1030
across the world
K2
with his
Radio.
family. Are you or someone you know experiencing a speech, language, or swallowing disorder? An ASHA certified speech language pathologist can help. Visit us at asha.org/public.
Six 6:23 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Okay, 888-97 Woods the phone number, 888-97-WOODS. And unless something changes along the course of this program, I'm only going to take calls on just one topic today because a lot needs to be said. A lot of people want to say some things about this. Morning, Tumbleweed. Tumbleweed is in Lands Creek, Wyoming. He said, good morning, Glenn. I do not believe anything the media has reported on the shooter. Question 1, the shooter lived in PA. How long did he live there? Question 2, let me see. He was a registered Republican. I very much doubt that. 20 years old. Well, no, he was a registered. This is where I understand your doubt, Tumbleweed. I understand your doubts in what the media reports. I totally get that. This is where I wait for more information to come in before I make any kind of a decision, and I don't let my mind get into all sorts of different theories. I'm just basing what I see now as a lone nutball based on what I see so far. But at that age, and they did interview some people who've known this young man at that age, and he seemed to be a little off. Okay. Registered Republican, yes, but he also gave money to liberal organizations too, and to anybody's knowledge that knows him, well, those people have been interviewed so far, he never really expressed any political points of view, so we don't know a whole lot about him. All right, David is in Guernsey. Good morning, David.
Good morning, Glenn. How are you?
Good, sir. What you got?
Well, I got to thinking about this. They haven't said what kind of weapon was used. Not that I've heard.
Okay, I know it was an
Now-
AR-15 style weapon, but that doesn't tell us a whole lot other than you know what that looks like. That's about it.
Oh, sure.
Okay.
But if that was attempt on Biden,
Yeah.
the assault rifle thing would have been blown out of the water.
Yeah. There have
And
been
would have been
some.
on every other word.
Yeah, though I think you're right. There have been a few people on the liberal side. What do you conservatives think about assault weapons now? You know, that of course is being thrown out there. But still, though, I look at it as this guy was making bombs too, so I'm not going to blame the gun. I'm taking a look at someone who seems to be off, in my opinion,
Little
at this
unstable.
time. Go ahead.
No, I'm just saying a little unstable, maybe.
Yeah, I think he was a little unstable. According to the people who were around him, he just seemed a little bit off. I think, again, my opinion could change at a later date, that it just was the target of opportunity at the time. I don't see any motivation other than that at this time. But, I mean, did you get a different impression?
I didn't.
Okay.
It was just one of those just flew off the handle kind of moves.
Yeah, okay. I think so.
No reason for it.
All right. Well, we'll find out exactly what kind of gun probably a little bit later. But all right. Thank you, David. And, of course, there is a lot of question about how did the Secret Service allow this guy to get up on the roof in the first place? You know, those things have to be answered. And again, at this time, my opinion is I think they just massively blew it. But there's people who have other ideas, and I get that. But I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the rhetoric, too, this morning that I've been hearing from all sides and leading up to this. Like, for example, George Snuffleupagus. And I recently found out I'm not the only one who calls him that. As soon as Stephanopoulos came onto the national scene, I started calling him Snuffleupagus. And then I recently found out a bunch of other people have been doing the same thing. All right, said that Trump and his supporters have contributed to violent rhetoric. Okay. But then again, Nick Nolte, Trump is Hitler. And CNN, Jennings, saying if Trump wins an election, our country will end, our democracy will end. This has consequences. So you see, the rhetoric comes from all sides in this thing, doesn't it? Yeah. All right. This is why I say, can everybody just kind of calm down, if we could, please? A lot. because I hear a lot about, and if you want to hear comments, I can't even read them on the air. If you go online and read some of the comments coming from all sorts of different sides and all sorts of different conspiracy theories, which is why I say try to do, Jude in Mills says a 22 long rifle is what she says. Okay. Jim in Laramie says, my question is, how did he get a long gun in and that close to the president? Okay, so the answer to that is the gunman was on the outskirts of the event, not in the event. On the outskirts of the event, there was a rooftop that he was able to climb onto. It was a one-story building, and he was able to climb onto that rooftop and basically crawl across it unseen and get within range. But he was not in the event. My question about that rooftop not being covered, it was certainly covered by return fire from Secret Service. But how did they not have somebody up there before that is what I'd like to know. All right, we'll get into more of this because it's important to unpack all of it. 6:30 is the time, 888-97 Woods, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. We have local news coming our way. After local news update on the weather forecast, 888-97 Woods is the phone number. Morning, Chet. Jetson Yoder, Mike in Wheatland. I'll go ahead and read your comment on the air as we get out of the next news and information break. Wake up, Wyoming.
Friday.
Got something to say? Call 888-97-WOODS or chat with Glenn on the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app from K2 Radio.
6:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Okay, just so you know, and if you've listened to this program enough, you know that if you got a different opinion in mind, that's okay. If you have a different theory as to what happened with the Trump shooting, that's perfectly fine. You can go ahead and text me using the Wake Up Wyoming app or call the show, and we'll certainly talk about that because this is a chance for you to get it out of your system and just not just vent, but also just think out loud about what you think is going on. And that's okay. I might disagree with you, but, again, unless you're Dave from San Francisco, we can have a nice little conversation about it. That's all right. One more time. For those people just joining us, all rise. Hats off, hands on hearts. Just trying to make you feel better. IID John is over there in Granite Canyon. He said, good morning, Glenn. I will put this shooter in the same category as Hinckley and Berkowitz. Just another nut job. Yeah, I agree with that. Remember, Ronald Reagan was shot by a guy who did it to impress the actress Jodie Foster. Jodie Foster was not a Ronald Reagan fan. This guy had a crush on Jodie Foster and decided, if I shoot Ronald Reagan, what did you think you're going to get lucky? She's going to come knocking on your door all excited because you shot Ronald. It doesn't work that way. So, yeah, that in Hinckley's mind, this is how he impresses Jodie Foster. I think in this case, with the information I have so far, that this shooter was just a lone nut job and the target of opportunity was a presidential rally. That's what it looks like. But again, tell me if I'm wrong. Woody Doo in Evansville. Morning. He said, I read several articles that it was an AR-15. Okay. I read that it was an AR-15 style rifle, or it was an AR-15. I've heard long rifle is another term I've used. And so that's why I say I don't know at this point. But we'll see when, at some point, if we can get some official what exactly it was. He also, again, had in his, wherever he was living, other materials. My last I heard was guns and bomb-making material and so on. But again, wait on that because, as I said at the beginning of this, usually the first thing you hear is wrong. Grady and Laramie, I think the media has pitted this hate barrage between the two parties, and few people would do something like what happened this weekend. Now, I absolutely agree that few people would do what happened this weekend. Most people would never think to do something like this. And I do think that heated rhetoric does tend to set off people like this. There are some people they're already crazy. You just need something to actually spark them. And then we have a problem, right? But as far as who's with the rhetoric, Here again, I can show you people on the Republican side who are saying outrageous things that certainly are just throwing kerosene on the fire. Then I'll go tune in MSNBC, and you'll hear the same kind of rhetoric throwing kerosene on the fire. It's coming from all sides. So I'm not going to point the finger at one side or another. To everybody, I'm saying, can we just calm down here? You disagree with someone politically, you don't need necessarily to demonize them, unless they are really that bad. And there are some who are. See, Mike in Wheatland, I was going to read yours. He said, Glenn, the fact that the shooter was registered Republican means absolutely nothing. Don't forget we have tons of Democrats in Wyoming who registered Republican just to screw with our elections. Well, and yeah, and also this guy, he had registered as a Republican, but he'd also donated to liberal causes. And according to those people around him that have been interviewed so far, he didn't seem to ever express any political point of view at all. So I don't really think that has any. I still am sticking with, at this point, I don't think politics and rhetoric really had anything to do with it. I think, and we'll go back up to what I-80 John said, he and I seem to agree, this is just a nutball looking for a target of opportunity, and there was a political rally. Now, we'll see if my opinion changes with time as we get more information out. Okay. Again, when we get to, because the Republican convention starts tonight. Now, I have a question for you. I don't know if this is going to happen. Do you think Trump will go out and speak tonight? The reason I ask that, normally when we have a convention, the headliner doesn't show up until the very end. It's a full week of all sorts of different speakers and events going on, and the last person to speak is the presidential nominee, the headliner. And when he's done, the event is over. With what happened this weekend, it makes me wonder, do you think Trump will make an appearance first just to show I'm okay? I don't know that, but I've been wondering about that all weekend long, and we'll see, because the Republican convention, again, it starts today, early. Most of the speakers are boring, by the way. And most of the convention will be, most of what is said during this convention will be completely overshadowed by what happened this weekend with Trump. Okay. There's even been some speculation, that the whole thing about the Democrats getting rid of Biden is now overshadowed and probably won't happen because of what happened to Trump. I don't know. Again, these are pundits that are speculating, and they'll continue to speculate because that's what they're paid for. It doesn't have to be true. 642, Don Day's extended forecast, Wake Up Wyoming.
Local and mobile across Wyoming and beyond with the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. This is AM 1030 K2 Radio.
6:48's the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Off to the icebox we go. Frank Gambino is waiting by. Frank, did you ever watch the television show The $6 Million Man?
Every so often, yeah.
Okay.
Lee Majors,
yeah,
Farrah Fawcett, maybe. Well, she wasn't on there. Somebody else was on there.
No, but he
had that eye. Went.
Oh my God, his arm. Yeah, in the way you make someone look fast as you do him in slow motion.
Yeah.
But also you could buy the action figure, and you could look through the eye.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was cool. So I don't know what, somehow or other, something popped up on television or on my social media or wherever, and it showed the $6 Million Man. And I thought, hang on, wasn't there an episode that happened in Wyoming?
Was there?
There was. So here
For
was
the
the
$6 million man.
Yes, here was the plot. The Russians were going to send a probe to Venus.
Okay.
Something went wrong, and it all crash landed in Wyoming. The probe, which looks more like something out of Doctor Who, right?
Yeah.
Is now having problems and has become very dangerous, and is roaming around Wyoming. So they send in the Bionic Man to go battle it. And it is every bit as bad as you would think it would be. It's a pretty good-sized robot that they made for this thing. But it's on 4 wheels, and it's sort of pyramid-shaped, and it has mechanical arms that reach out.
Oh, it wasn't like danger.
No. And this thing rolls around, and Lee Majors is attacking it. And it was – actually, there's several parts to this. Steve Austin's epic battle with the Death Probe.
The Death Probe,
Yes,
yes.
that's what that was. And it was I think it was a 2 or maybe 3-part series, I forget. So, yeah, that was supposed to be like I think actually it was a 2-parter because, they always had to have their season finale.
Right, yeah.
Right, yeah. So here, that was probably a season finale thing. But anyway, if you want the story and if you'd like to see some of the clips from it, and you can still watch it somewhere online if you're interested. But trust me when I tell you, Frank, you're not interested.
There you go. All righty. Now in American Legion baseball from over the weekend, first of all, the Casper Oilers were in the Bozeman tournament on Friday. They beat Nampa, Idaho 11-1. Also on Friday in the Fort Collins tournament, the Cheyenne Sixers over Fort Collins 4-1, and also beat Greeley, Colorado 11-8. And also on Friday, Arvada, Colorado beat Laramie, the AA Rangers 11-3, and then the Laramie AA Rangers beat Loveland 8-0. Then on Saturday, the Casper Oilers played twice. They beat Kalispell, Montana 6-4, and the Idaho Falls Knights 6-1. Regis, Colorado over the Cheyenne Sixers in the Fort Collins tournament 8-3, and Fort Collins also beat Laramie 10-2. On Sunday, the Bozeman beat the Casper Oilers 18-10 in the championship game of that Bozeman tournament. Arvada over the Cheyenne Sixers 6-1, and the Fort Collins tournament also in Fort Collins, Rocky Mountain over Laramie 13-7. In Major League Baseball, the Colorado Rockies beat the New York Mets yesterday 8-5, so they get to the All-Star break still miserable at 34-63. However, they did hit 6 home runs in that game yesterday. Michael Toglia had 3 of them, so at least it's a decent way to end the first half of the season. Coming up in Casper on Saturday is the Wyoming Coaches Association All-Star High School Games. At 1 p.m. over at Casper College will be the volleyball game on Saturday. Then at 3 p.m. will be girls basketball, and 5 p.m. will be the boys basketball game. The Central Wyoming Rodeo wrapped up on Saturday at the fairgrounds in Casper. In the bareback riding, Thermopolis native Rody Farrell finished 4th in the average with 166.5 on 2. He won $1,244. Ethan Mazurenko of KC finished 6th in the average. He won $565. And in the team roping, Carson and Kellen Johnson of Casper finished 10th, and they won $1,355 each. Not bad. Also, former Natrona County High School star Lauren Tauber will be competing for Team USA in the heptathlon at the Thorpe Cup this weekend in Germany. It's kind of like a Ryder Cup of golf with heptathletes and decathletes from the U.S. taking on the Germans in a 2-day event. The Casper native was an All-American decathlete at Kansas State University, but did finish 13th at this year's Olympic trials in the heptathlon in Eugene, Oregon. She missed almost 3 years of competition with various injuries, so this is really quite a comeback story, and that's it in sports.
6 home runs in one game.
Yeah, I think they haven't done that in over a year.
Okay. Well, I mean, what's typical?
It's very, very, very atypical.
Yeah, I was about to say, that doesn't sound like a normal thing.
Yeah, very atypical, but it does happen enough. Some of these pitchers have got to be going, the All-Star break cannot come quick enough.
Yeah, well, especially, you're talking the best of the best through all of this, so you don't want to...
Hey, let's take 3 or 4 days off, and we're,
Okay. Okay. Thank you, Frank. Coming up on some local business we got to take care of. We're going to roll into news time after that. I do want to... We're still taking your phone calls on the whole Trump shooting topic over the course of this morning here, but I do have to talk about the former fire chief, the gentleman who literally gave his life protecting his family over what happened on Saturday at the Trump rally. It's an important story that has to be told, because this guy, you want to talk about a true man and a true American and a true hero. This is what this guy was, especially when you hear what he did to protect his family and how he died that day. Let's Wake Up Wyoming. 7:06 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It is a Monday. Hang on, because your phone calls this morning, of course, well, we're going to need them.
Today's show is sponsored by Armpit Hair Dye, because waving goodbye should be more colorful.
And yeah, that is actually a thing that some people are doing. Okay, I'm doing this at various times this morning just for those people who had sort of a tough and scary weekend. For all you Trump supporters, all rise. Hats off, hands on your hearts. Just trying to make you feel better. All right, 888-97 was the phone number, 888-97-WOODS. I already talked a lot about what happened this weekend in the first hour program. We'll get back to it. You're allowed to interrupt me with your phone calls during this. I do want to talk about somebody else that I think needs to be spoken about more, and that's the gentleman who lost his life. And there are a lot of folks who know him that are stepping up and talking about him. Former fire chief. Great dad, according to the kids. Family members identify Corey, and I hope I'm pronouncing it right, Comparator is what it looks like to me, as the rally goer who was killed Saturday in an assassination attempt against former President Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania. He was a former fire chief of Buffalo Township, according to a local news report. He was shot and killed and it talks about what happened. Okay, the victim's sister wrote on Facebook that Corey was a hero as he shielded his daughters. So as soon as the shooting starts, he knows what's going on and becomes a human shield. Quote, his wife and girls just lived through the unthinkable, unimaginable. My baby brother turned 50 and so much of his life left to experience. And then it goes on with more of a statement about praying for the sister-in-law and nieces and so on. So I think it's very important because he has been mentioned. He has been talked about. As police, the FBI, continue to investigate the shooter, which, of course, they should, I would like the news media to spend a little bit more time on this guy and who he was. Because he's not someone who just ducked, which I saw a lot of people do, and there's not a thing wrong with that. You hear gunshots, duck, obviously. But he turned and shielded his daughters, which means if he hadn't done that, it might have been one of them. And being a former fire chief, and you go back and look at the rest of his life, he seemed to be an outstanding human being, and people around him just seemed to love and adore him and respect him. So I would love for the news media to spend a little bit more time on him, and I hope when Trump speaks at the convention, which the Republican convention starts tonight, that they spend a little bit more time honoring that gentleman as well. Because that is the type of human being that as Americans we should look up to as heroes. A lot of the stories that I saw this morning, and I don't even care, a lot of the stories, celebrities' reaction to the Trump shooting, I don't care what the celebrities say. I don't care what some Hollywood actor or some rap star says. I don't care. That it is nothing in me that cares the slightest about what those people have to say. But I would like to hear a lot more about the gentleman who lost his life trying to protect his daughters. Judy is in Casper. Good morning, Judy.
Hey, Jude, Glenn.
I'm Glenn. You're Jude, yeah.
First off, I need to apologize to Casey Coates.
Uh-huh.
Somebody had hacked his account, and that's who was arguing with me.
Okay.
So, to Casey and his family, I apologize, and I told you I would on Glenn Woods. Secondly, okay, here's a couple of things. The firefighter that got killed.
Yeah.
They've gotten, they got a GoFundMe page up right now.
Yep, they do.
And it's got almost $800,000 in it right now.
Mm-hmm.
And if people want to donate, it's not too hard to find on the internet.
And that's to take care of, because he's got kids he left behind, so that's to take care of them.
Oh, yeah. Well, at least $800,000 so far. Hopefully enough, because he probably earned $150,000 a year maybe.
Yeah.
And he was a young guy, so you need at least a 15-year cushion for these guys, because they lost their main breadwinner.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a very brave man. Of course, we've lost a lot of good men through all of this. We've got our J6 guys that have hung themselves. and Ashley Babbitt, who got killed by the Capitol Police, and Rosalind Boylan, she was also killed. A couple of the guys had heart attacks. A couple of them hung themselves in jail over a fake J6 insurrection. Look at how much damage these people are doing to this country, and now trying to kill Trump. Okay, I believe this was an inside job, and the reason I'm saying that is because this was not his normal Secret Service detail. These were diversity hires, and J6 Chairman Benny Thompson had pulled Trump's normal team just weeks ago. Okay, so they wouldn't let him have his full security detail. Secondly, when the guys were over there seeing this kid climb up there, they were telling the police, and they were telling him loudly. There's videos all over the place. In fact, if I was one of those guys, I'd probably be jumping in a hole somewhere and covering it up, because you know how it goes. Dead man tell no tales. Secondly, last week Biden used a sentence. It was a couple of days back, and it says, "Time to put Trump in the bullseye." I find that very, very hokey. It was almost like a cue. Right. And then you've had Kamala Harris go on the Ellen DeGeneres show and say, Ellen asked her, well, if you trapped in an elevator with Trump and Pence, or with Trump, what would you do? And she says, well, does he have to come out alive? Right. They've been asking for the murder.
Yeah, they've been
Trump
saying this for quite a while, but I think you and I completely, I don't buy into your conspiracy theory. I know you hold to that, but I don't at all. I look at this, based on the evidence that I see, this was a lone nutball who was going to do something somewhere. He was going to do something. And this was a really convenient target of opportunity, the fact that there was a political rally being held. If it wasn't that, he was probably going to shoot up a mall or a school or something like that. So,
how did the kid know that building wouldn't be covered by Secret Service?
Well, that doesn't prove anything that you said, though. So you go find a building that's a good place to go put yourself, and you go climb up it. It's that simple. So I think when you look at who this guy was, as we find out more about him, he was one of those, kind of like the guy who shot Ronald Reagan to impress Jodie Foster, that kind of a thing. It tends to be just a lone nutball is what I see so far in this one. But, okay. We'll find out as more information comes out.
BlackRock video.
Right.
Yeah, he's in a video commercial for BlackRock.
I'll have to see that.
And what is BlackRock? BlackRock is gobbling up everybody's homes in the country.
Right. Okay.
And they're connected to the DNC. Okay, don't believe me now, but I'm going to give you my position.
I don't. Okay.
It's going to come out that the Democrat Party, when they were trying to so-called get rid of Biden all last week, they were plotting to murder Trump.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Judy. So, yeah, this is where I say, I mean, if you got a theory, that's okay. I completely disagree with everything that Judy just said on that one. And, again, I go back to, as more evidence comes in about who this young man was, we find out that people who were around him, they always did say he was a bit on the weird side anyway. One of those quiet loner who got picked on a lot types. All right. And which is why I also say, when we see that MO, because we've seen this before, it tends to be someone who's going to find something to do that's horrendous. And again, it's a school, or he shoots up a mall, or whatever. Here's a political rally, so he goes and does that. So I'm not connecting the dots the way Judy is. Chet and Yoder says, if Trump caused January 6th, did Biden rhetoric cause Trump's assassination attempt? Brianna in Fort Danger Glen, it's kind of amusing how shocked the media and the left act years after calling Trump Hitler, and that he's going to do terrible acts and blah, blah, blah. Now, Organic Fuel Lover is in Douglas. First off, I love the handle you gave yourself, Organic Fuel Lover. What I don't like is you need to send me one more letter N. That's all you got to get on the app and type the letter N one more time and hit send. Because you spelled my name with one N instead of two. So I'll just add it in. Don't worry about it. We're good. He said, might focus on the legal psychotic meds he was most likely on. They always are. Yeah. Big Wave in Casper. He said, I totally agree with you. I think this guy was probably wasn't happy with his life and maybe was in a suicidal. and sees that a political rally is close by, and, well, all he's got to do is go do something, and somehow this is revenge on all of those people who have mistreated him over the years, or whatever goes through a nutball's head. What was the congresswoman? You guys will have to remind me. Gabby Giffords. That's right, Gabby Giffords, a congresswoman who was shot by a nutball. And when we investigated who was it that shot Congresswoman Gabby Giffords, it was just a nutball. And there was a political rally happening, and he showed up and took a shot at her. So there was no conspiracy behind it. It was just a nutball with a gun. And that's what I honestly think that's what we're dealing with here. 717, Wake Up.
Start your day the right way. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on K2 Radio. Join the conversation at 888-97-WOODS.
7:22 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. All right, 888-97-WOODS, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOOD. According to Chet and Yoder, that GoFundMe for the firefighter who lost his life trying to protect his daughter at the Trump rally is now to about $3.7 million. So, all right. One thing I think Trump is doing that is, I think, dead on. In fact, I wish this has happened a long time ago. He's asked, since the Republican convention starts today, everybody to sort of rework their speeches, whoever's speaking about whatever. Rework your speech, and now we're going to make it positive about coming together and America. Okay. So, in other words, positive things about America and about coming together as Americans to make it a positive convention for America. Now, I like that idea, especially because that's how Ronald Reagan won. Ronald Reagan didn't go in saying all sorts of negative things about the Democrats. He had done that in the past. But when he began to run his campaign for president, first and second time around, it was all about coming together as Americans. Much like when Trump first came around with his Make America Great Again, it was supposed to be a positive message for America, and that tends to be what wins. Rather than, originally, they were going to go after Biden. The whole convention was going to be attack Biden and show why he shouldn't be president. Well, I think we all understand that now, so we don't need to go into a lot of detail about that. But instead, to deliver a positive message about coming together as Americans and how America, can once again be a great country, which we have been at times in the past. We've done amazing things as Americans together. And there have been times in the past that even when we didn't agree on everything, as a nation, we were still Americans. You don't have to necessarily agree with your neighbors or your friends to be neighbors and friends with them. I found out I have all sorts of people that I know, and I like a lot. I don't agree with them on much of anything, but we really do get along, and we're good friends. You don't have to be always of the same exact mindset. Just because someone disagrees with you doesn't mean you have to demonize them, but more than anything, to come together as Americans. And what exactly does that mean? So then to find the reaction to that, the Democrats will probably come up with a negative reaction because it doesn't matter whatever Republicans say, it's got to be racist or whatever the hell else. And they got to keep their group in panic mode in order to keep that base and have that base vote for them time and time again. Well, we'll see what this turns out to be. My question, this is something Judy answered earlier, is usually with a convention, whoever is their nominee is the last person to speak. That's the headliner. We go through all sorts of speakers throughout the convention, and most of them nobody pays attention to. In fact, in many cases, and the conventions are not just about speakers, of course. There's a lot that happens at conventions. But when speakers are on stage, in most cases, they're up there talking, and the convention hall is filled with people, and very few people are actually listening to them. They might get a little media coverage if they say something interesting. The big night is the last night of the convention when their nominee steps out. And that's when everybody gets on to the floor and cheers and makes it look good for the cameras. And, I was looking at this after this weekend thinking, Do you think that Trump will walk out at the beginning this time? Because something very different has happened. At the very beginning, somewhere, I don't know if it'll be tonight or sometime, but the first day of the convention, Trump will walk out and say a little bit of something anyway. If not a full speech, but at least speak a little bit. And I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. Judy says that's going to happen. I don't know. But I wouldn't be surprised at all if they do that. And it ought to be, according to Trump, a positive message. Cyber Poke in Laramie, morning. He says, the truth of the matter is a kid, yes, at my age and experience, I consider the shooter a kid. I'll pause you right there. I've been doing the same thing. I keep calling him a kid. Was influenced by all the liberally controlled media rhetoric into believing he needed to take matters into his own hands. Okay. Now, I don't totally disagree, but hang on. And current administration pushed the buttons knowingly, willingly, and now they're acting shocked. Okay. I wouldn't doubt that coverage from news media pushes the buttons of somebody who's already on the edge and just needs that little push to go over the edge and do something like this. I wouldn't doubt that at all. But I don't think that news media or Democrats in general are trying to push buttons to cause this to happen. I don't believe that. But they do act shocked when it does. And that's one of the reasons that and a lot of other people are saying, can we tone it down? Because there's always people out there that are on the edge. There's always somebody else there that's on the edge, and they could just flip out at any moment. And they just need something to light that spark. And so, yeah, with all the rhetoric that we hear from news media and from both the Democrats and Republicans at this point, it's been really bad. It's been really bad. Yeah, at some point, somebody's going to become unhinged. That's why all sides, and the news media is the first to let go. Both political parties have been saying we need to tone this down. And I know both parties are not going to keep that promise. The first group to not keep that promise has been the news media during the course of this weekend. They started by saying we need to tone down the rhetoric, and then the next thing they did, by the time they got through about halfway through Sunday, they were right back with the rhetoric again. All right, local news coming your way. Weather forecast. Wake Up Wyoming.
Friday.
The best talk show host in the state, within his price range. Tune in to Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods, weekdays at 6.
7:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Back to the phones I go. 888-97 Woods, by the way. 888-97 WOODS. Jerry is in Greeley. Morning, Jerry.
Good morning. You were talking about promoting the idea of unity as Americans and coming together, and I just think I don't think enough people understand that the hardcore leadership of the left, they don't share the same fundamental values as, well, a lot of Americans, like myself. I mean, they, just to be as simplistic as possible, they're communists, and they want to conquer the world, and they'll do it any way they can. So what they view as good and desirable is what I consider abhorrent and evil.
Now,
and I don't want to come together with them.
I do believe, though, that there's a lot of people who are more of your, let's say, moderate Democrats, or those people who, when it comes to election time, sometimes they vote Democrat, sometimes they vote Republican. And even on the Democrat side that have been lifelong Democrats, there's a lot of them that share more values with you, Jerry, than you would believe. They're not hardcore communists. They just are not as limited government as you and I would be, let's say. And so they don't like the idea of where the Democrat Party has been. In fact, a couple of years ago, have you heard about the hashtag walk-away movement with the Democrats? Did you hear about that one?
Yes.
Okay. Well, that was your modern Democrat that just, they like capitalism. They like building a good company and being successful. They like living the American dream. It's just that when it comes to solving problems, they love to turn to government. Government needs to start a healthcare program for everybody, you know, that kind of a thing. We need green energy, and government needs to do that kind of a thing. But they're not communists. those people, I think, can be persuaded. And it was Ronald Reagan, to go back to him, who did that. Remember, Reagan won the second time around in such a landslide, he only lost one state.
Well, yeah, I agree. I mean, you're right. There's persuadable people, and we need to try to persuade them. But my fear is that too many on the left automatically go with whatever their leadership steers them towards, and they don't think deeply about the issues. They don't know history. They don't study the topic. It's irreconcilable for too many on the left, I believe. Are you familiar with Cloward and Piven?
No.
That's worth looking into, the Cloward and Piven strategy. A couple of commie college professors many years ago wrote out their plan on how to subvert America, and that's what's happening now. But and the Frankfurt School, I mean, that's fundamentally what we're seeing.
Let me ask this before I let you go. What do you think, then, would be a winning strategy for the Republicans at this time?
I guess I'm not astute enough to promote that. I try to educate people to the roots of what's really happening, because they put a smiley face on it, but ultimately for left leadership wants to lead us towards communism, and we need to say that out loud.
Yeah. Okay. All right, Jerry. Thanks. Good call. I appreciate it. 888-97 Woods the phone number, but hold that, because I got Don Day with his extended forecast coming up in just a bit, or maybe I can go ahead and squeeze one in here just before we get to the break at the top of the hour. I know we're going to get a lot of calls today, so I'll go ahead and try to squeeze in as many as I possibly can. No, that one didn't seize. I'll go ahead and let that one go. All right. Next hour is going to be a lot of calls if you want to go ahead and jump in. I do think that there's a lot of people out there that are persuadable. Just because someone has Democrat by their name, I don't think necessarily means they're a lost cause. All right. I think it depends on how far they've gone. That's why I mentioned with Jerry the hashtag walk away movement. That was a whole bunch of, and this made the Democrat Party really nervous. I mean, they got scared because there's a whole bunch of Democrats out there that are looking at the extreme woke left and saying, I'm sorry, I can't do this. This is just too much. This is too far. Because, again, they still believe in freedom and liberty. They're still capitalists. Okay, they're not as conservative as many of you listening, but they're not as far to the left as, let's say, a Bernie Sanders or an Ocasio-Cortez. They're just not. So can they be persuaded? And I'm thinking, yeah. Now, it's going to take more than just one Republican convention to do it. I think a lot of it is not going to be saying anything to them, trying to convince them, but showing. And that's where, once again, you have a successful administration. Again, let's go back to Ronald Reagan. He won the first time, and then the second time around it was a landslide because he showed everybody what happens when you have limited government and big liberty, which is mainly the message. All right, I see more comments coming in on the app, too. We'll get to those. Don Day's coming up next. He's got the extended forecast with a bit of a cool down and a little bit wetter. Just a little bit. Wake Up Wyoming.
Honestly, he's just happy to be here. Catch Glenn Woods on Wake Up Wyoming, weekdays at 6 on air, on Alexa, and on the Wake Up Wyoming app.
It's Wake Up Wyoming off. We go to talk to Don Day with Day Weather. Okay, so to give you an illustration, Don, of this weekend, I went out to my front porch, which is shaded, and I'm facing a golf course, which I'm just above, and I'm getting a breeze off of the golf course, and I thought I would enjoy it. And that lasted about 5 minutes because I don't like getting a hot heater blasting air into my face like I was getting.
Well, it was the hottest weekend of the summer so far. I don't quite know what you were expecting.
Coolness in the shade of my porch, but I guess that doesn't work that way. But it was, though, early. I sent you a bunch of pictures and some video, which I know you enjoyed, because I am in my living room, walking across my living room, sipping on a cup of coffee, and I hear a burner thrust 2 or 3 times, and I realize what I'm listening to, and I run outside, and there's hot air balloons coming across that golf course right toward my house. They were all over the place. It was magnificent, Don.
Yes, it was your video and pictures were beautiful.
Yeah.
There's nothing prettier than a hot air balloon against the backdrop of blue sky, and it
Yeah.
just makes everybody happy.
It does. Well, interesting to me, and as a meteorologist, I wanted you to address this real quick. So when the balloons would come low over the golf course, they would come rushing toward the house. And you can see the golf course is kind of up and down in the slopes. And then if they were a little bit higher, they moved a little bit slower. A bit higher than that, they would just stall and sit still. A bit higher than that, they would be heading the opposite direction. And some people think the wind is always blowing in the same direction.
No, that's one thing you learn very quickly as a balloonist is that the wind directions and the wind speeds change so much with height.
Yeah.
And especially in the mornings. And so there's a lot more going on above you can't see. But you're right. I mean, what's happening on the ground is not necessarily what's happening 200 feet above you.
Right. Now, I'll get out of that because you and I will start discussing aviation. So now, nice thing is starting today, we have, relatively speaking, a good cool down.
Yeah, what is going to happen this week is the high-pressure ridge that brought this extreme heat is weakening. And as it weakens, that's going to allow temperatures to back off a bit. It's also allowing more in the way of subtropical moisture moving in. Now, many of you may have experienced a shower or thunderstorm over the weekend, especially yesterday. We're going to see more of those. In fact, this is about as textbook mid-July weather as you're going to get, where you're going to be warm. We're not going to be breaking any heat records, so that'll be nice, but it's going to be plenty warm. But every afternoon and evening, somebody's going to get a thunderstorm. It may not be you, might be the guy down the road, but they're going to be out there every day this week. They're going to be probably continuing into the weekend as well. So again, we're going back to, if you want to do anything outdoors, take advantage of the early part of the day before those thunderstorms develop.
Will those storms get a bit more rain?
They will. Good. Now, they're still going to produce a lot of wind gusts, but with the lower levels getting more moisture, they should start to be better rain producers, especially east of the divide.
The reason I ask that is because we do have some fires out there that were lightning strikes, but not a lot of rain to put the fire out.
Right. And that was a concern going into this heat wave, is that we were going to have the heat, we were going to have these thunderstorms, but not the kind of thunderstorms that, a lot of times the thunderstorm will cause a lightning strike and will cause the fire, then the rain will put it out. But that hasn't been the case over the last several days, not only here, but over the western U.S. We saw that a lot over the weekend, and there's a lot of smoke and haze from those fires.
All right, Don, thank you. Don Day with Day Weather. Yeah, that's why if you got up sometime this weekend, especially Sunday, and everything was a little smoky out there. That's why. Off we go to the icebox. Frank Gambino waiting by. Frank, did you see the hot air balloons?
No, but I was golfing yesterday, and it was pretty. I saw a few.
Yeah.
And I was golfing yesterday, and it was warm.
Yeah.
And you could just smell and taste that smoke.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm like, whoa, what is on fire here?
Yeah.
It was just like, wow. I mean.
Yep. There's some in Natrona County where you are, so that's part of what you were smelling there. And it doesn't look like anything particularly horrific, but it is out there, and you can definitely tell. But, yeah, those balloons. Miss Mary liked the one that had the elephant trunk.
Oh, how nice.
Yes. That went over my house and then backed up because it got into that wind that was going the other direction. Because as Don Day was just saying, as you go up in the morning, the air is doing different things. So some of those balloons passed over my house, and then they backed up. Took another look at me, waved again, and then went back over to the
where
east
they
again.
were, where they were.
Yeah, and I did get a chance. There's a gentleman I know who works for the FAA. He investigates crashes.
Okay.
And a couple of those balloons, in one case, there were some people who jumped out before it hit the ground. I didn't hear any reports of anybody hurt, but that landing was not the prettiest landing.
It was a little rough.
Yeah, it can be. And people do ask all the time, so as they're floating over there, where are they supposed to land? A target of opportunity. There's a nice field. It looks relatively flat and smooth enough. Let's try for that. That's how they land those things.
I've heard stories of that. Like, okay, let's keep going, or we're gonna end up in the river here.
Yeah,
we need to keep moving. Go. Oh, okay, we're good.
Yeah, it's okay. Yeah, and so as much as I wanted to, you and I were talking about it. I got to do this at some point in my life, Frank. I've got to get up and go in one of these things. I really do.
Then the next time they got to say, Glenn, we're doing this. Come on.
But now that's the only thing that I'll have a great time the whole time I'm up there. The only thing I'm not going to like is, okay, at some point we got to touch down. Although I did see one. They were heading toward my house. Now, as you head down from my house, there's a little bit of a rise up. There's a second plateau.
Yeah.
And that's where they decided to do a touch and go. They came down and just touched the grass and then launched back up again. just so
Really?
they can say that they touched the golf
grass.
course.
There you go. All right, American Legion baseball from over the weekend. The Casper Oilers were in the Bozeman, Montana tournament on Friday. They defeated Nampa, Idaho 11-1. Then on Saturday, the Oilers defeated Kalispell, Montana 6-4, and the Idaho Falls Knights 6-1, but lost to Bozeman in the championship game of that tournament 18-10 on Sunday. The Cheyenne Sixers were in the Fort Collins tournament over the weekend. On Friday, they defeated Fort Collins 4-1 and Greeley, Colorado 11-8. Then they lost to Regis, Colorado on Saturday 8-3 and lost to Arvada, Colorado 6-1 on Sunday. Laramie AA Rangers were in that Fort Collins tournament as well. They lost to Arvada 11-3 and also beat Loveland 8-0 on Friday. Then on Saturday, the Fort Collins beat Laramie 10-2. Then on Sunday, the Rocky Mountain team over Laramie 13-7. In Major League Baseball, we're at the All-Star break now, and the Colorado Rockies are 34-63 in the first half of the season, but they hit 6 home runs in yesterday's game and beating the New York Mets 8-5. Michael Toglia hit 3 of them, so it's a pretty good effort. At least it gives him some momentum going into the All-Star break with the second half of the season starting later on this next week. In high school athletics this week, the Wyoming Coaches Association All-Star Games will be on Saturday in Casper at the Thunderbird Gym. Coming up on Saturday, the volleyball match will be at 1 p.m., the girls basketball game will be at 3 p.m., and the boys basketball game will be at 5 p.m. They also have the Wyoming Coaches Association Hall of Fame banquet, which will be coming up on Friday night. In rodeo, the Central Wyoming event concluded over the weekend. Chase Mayfield from Midwest won the all around. He won $1,300, competing in the tie down roping and the steer wrestling. In the bareback riding, Rody Farrell of Thermopolis took 4th with 166.5 on 2. He won over $1,200, and Ethan Mazarenko of KC won $565. He finished 6th in the bareback. In the team roping, Kellen and Carson Johnson of Casper finished 10th, so they won $1,355 each. Also, former Natrona County High School track star Lauren Tauber will be competing for Team USA in the heptathlon at the Thorpe Cup this weekend in Germany. It's kind of like the Ryder Cup of golf. Heptathletes and decathletes from the U.S. taking on the Germans in a 2-day event. The Casper native was an All-American decathlete at Kansas State University, but did finish 13th at the Olympic trials in the heptathlon in Eugene, Oregon. She missed almost 3 years of competition with various injuries, so that's really a really good comeback story. That's
Do you have a story up on her somewhere?
Somewhere. I gotta.
Okay.
I'll figure something out.
Send it to me, because I would love to see that story. I think that's really neat. We have some local out there.
Yes.
Doing her thing. All right. Thank you, Frank. Coming up on some local business that we have to take care of, we're going to roll into news time, national local update on the weather forecast, and then we'll get back in to what really is just the one topic of the day, which is fine. And your phone calls, too. And you don't have to agree with me. But we're going to keep talking about what happened this weekend with Donald Trump and what all this means and where we go from here. 888-97 was the phone number. That's 888-97 WOODS. Wake Up Wyoming. Six the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It is a Monday. Yes, it is open phones, but there's only one topic today.
Today's show is sponsored by Armpit Hair Dye.
That's not the topic.
Because waving goodbye should be more colorful.
But there are people who actually do that. All right, before we get into all of this, all you Trump supporters out there, all rise. Hats off if you're wearing one. Hands on hearts. All together now. May be seated. Do you feel better? Okay, a couple of stories real quick here. It's not, I was wondering what was going to happen with this. A judge in Florida just threw out all of the charges on Trump dealing with the classified documents at his home in Mar-a-Lago. It's just all thrown out, all of the charges. So that's done. That's a case that was going to keep dragging on, and it might have even dragged on right up through the end of the election. Well, I don't know anymore. But that's all just been thrown out. And I don't know if that has anything to do with the shooting over the weekend or not, but that's what the judge did. It might or might not. I'll let you guys go ahead and figure that out. But that's what just happened, which to me was really interesting. Oh, you know what I forgot to do? That was breaking news. Well, you know, when you're listening to Fox News and you hear breaking news, or MSNBC or whatever the case is, they always have their breaking news alert. It's always the same one. So it gets your attention that something just happened. Let's see. I was going to go like breaking news. Yeah, that didn't work out. Breaking news. No, definitely not. Breaking news. Maybe. How about breaking news? Yeah, it's okay. Say, I got it. Because this is going to drive liberals absolutely nuts, what I just told you. Breaking news. That would have been much better. All right. Now, another story that, speaking of, I just mentioned MSNBC, the show Morning Joe has been pulled off the air for now. Yeah, Scott Adams on Sunday predicted that MSNBC would pull its most deranged commentators off the air after the shooting that happened this weekend. So here's just the latest. MSNBC is not airing Morning Joe Monday because of the Trump assassination attempt. The network was reportedly eager to avoid a particular scenario playing out, says the story. MSNBC didn't air Morning Joe on Monday after the attempted assassination of Donald Trump over the weekend, choosing instead to continue rolling breaking news coverage of the shooting and its aftermath. The show will account Sundays. Well, it goes through the whole thing that happened over the weekend. A source familiar to the decision told CNN that Morning Joe was axed Monday in order to avoid a potential situation in which one of the program's guests make an inappropriate comment that could be used to criticize the show or the network. So you get the idea. That does not surprise me at all. Now, during the course of this morning, in fact, I opened with this morning. For those who were with me at 6 o'clock, I'm going to repeat myself a little bit about what happened over the weekend. And I have taken calls where I've even entertained a few conspiracy theorists and so on with whatever you think is going on. Here's my assessment of this over the weekend. I was out in my garage, which I've turned into not a garage, but a man cave. Couch and all of that included. And I start hearing screaming from inside the house to come in. I thought somebody had hurt themselves. I walk inside and look at the television. Something happened to Trump, I'm told. And this is where I begin to see it. And at that point, they were still at the stage where they were showing the video over and over and over again. And I had to remind myself, but you don't know what's going on. Because it's very typical when we see something like this, we all start imagining all sorts of different scenarios. The reality of it is none of us know what's going on. We don't. Neither do the anchors or the reporters. They're struggling to figure out what's going on. They want to report to you what's happening, but they don't know what's going on. So they start after a while to roll out their experts because they have a lot of airtime to fill. And the experts, the problem there is they don't know what's going on, which is why I often tell you, whenever there's a big news event, the first things that you hear are wrong. Don't trust them. Be patient and wait. And even what your mind starts to do, because I had some friends of mine who got very emotional about this and angry. Some were near tears, some were angry, and the answer is none of you actually know what's going on. You know that somebody took a shot, or more than one actually, at Trump, but you know nothing more than that. So anything that you're thinking and imagining and scenario you're working up in your head is probably wrong. And the same thing goes with all of the reporters on the scene there. Now, later on, we learned that there was one shooter, okay, and we found out where that shooter was, fine. But again, any experts you were listening to, I went, you know me, I go to bed at 6 p.m. because I get up so early to do this show every day. So I went to bed, even on the weekends, I go to bed at my regular time. And I wake up, I'm sorry, this is going to freak some of you out. I get up at about 1:30 or 2 in the morning on the weekends. But that's my schedule. And I went over and turned on the television again, and it didn't last long. I ended up shutting it off because they were doing the same thing. They had the same so-called experts on. They were repeating the video over and over, but they didn't have anything new. Now, since then, we did learn a little something about who the shooter was. Now, I'd gone online and scanned, not really read deeply, just scanned a lot of what people are saying, both on the left and on the right and other points of view. And wow, the rhetoric and the conspiracy theories. And again, I'm looking at this going, none of you know what you're talking about. We don't know anything yet. But okay, they've identified the shooter. And of course, the FBI shows up to the shooter's house. 20-year-old guy, according to his friends, if he really had any, people who knew him, I should say. Quiet, loner, you know the type I'm going for here, right? The quiet loner, often outcast, often picked on. The last I heard, there was materials in his house that looked like he was trying to make bombs, guns. We don't have all the details about what's in the house yet, but that's the first of what came out. And as it continued a profile, it seemed to me like, well, we've heard this type before. Remember John Hinckley, who shot Ronald Reagan? Remember why he did it? To impress the actress Jodie Foster. The guy who shot the Congresswoman Gabby Giffords, who is he? Was it politically motivated? No. Just a nutball. And he shot Congresswoman Gabby Giffords. And the real reason for it was he was just nuts. At this point, this is what I'm going by. Now, you might hear me say something different as we get more evidence. But here's where I'm at right now. Looks to me like we have someone 20 years old who, yes, at my point, at this stage of my life, I'm calling him a kid. I'm sorry, but I do. At that age, I would have been offended if somebody had called me a kid. But at this age, I'm like, so this kid. And it looks to me like he was at some point going to snap and do something bad. He could have shot up a school, a mall. But here's this political rally. So he goes and does that. With a political figure like Trump. Okay. Now, I know that I got some calls earlier, and people are texting me while I'm on the air. And some are agreeing with me and some are disagreeing with me, and that's okay. And that's why also, besides sending me text off the Wake Up Wyoming app, the phone number is 888-97-WOODS, 888-97-WOODS. I see you there, Judy. Judy over at Mill, she called in this morning with her theory, and I let her lay it out for us. And I don't agree with anything that she has to say, but she was, I'm sorry, Judy, you had your tin hat on. But, hey, if that's what you want to do, that's fine. But I still look at it at this point with the evidence that I see as we have a lone nutball, and he was going to do something, and this was the opportunity that he went ahead and took. Now, at the same time, here comes the president out saying we need to tone down the rhetoric. Here comes Trump out saying, we need to tone down the rhetoric. And I agree. And when I hear people say that, my thought is don't just point your finger at the other side. Because I can tune into Fox News and listen to outrageous rhetoric, and I can tune into MSNBC and listen to outrageous rhetoric, and CNN's not much better. I can get on websites from all sorts of different political points of view, or look at people on social media like Facebook and what they have to say. And dear God, the kinds of things that Americans are saying to each other from all points of view is outrageous. So the idea of, hey, can we tone this down a bit? I'm totally behind that idea. This has gotten way out of control. I don't think that's what necessarily caused this. I know some of you disagree with me, but I think that this has gotten way out of control. And I think Trump has the right idea. We have the Republican convention starting tonight, and Trump has asked to change the tone. He wants everybody to change their speeches. And instead, it's about bringing America together. He's not going to there's not going to be so much of an attack against Biden, although I'm sure you will hear some about that. But most of it's going to be about coming together as Americans, which I think at this time is a really good strategy. All right. Chet in Yoder, there's Jude in Mills, there's Tumbleweed in Lance Creek, Wyoming, Cyberpoke in Laramie, Arnie's in Casper, Greg is in Cheyenne, Rihanna's in Fort Danger, and on the list goes. You can text me using the Wake Up Wyoming app or call 888-97-WOODS, 888-97-WOODS. This is just the one topic today, which I don't normally do, but I do think we need to talk about this. 818, Wake Up Wyoming.
When you need to know quicker than the morning paper or the 5 o'clock news, you need Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Mornings on K2 Radio.
8:22 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Back to the phones we go. 888-97-WOODS, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. Sean is on the line. Morning, Sean. What you got?
Hey, good morning, Mr. Woods. I've been listening to your radio show over the internet the last couple of years because I'm thinking about moving my family out to Wyoming, and I figured I should do a little research before I do such a thing. And this morning, you decided to have an open caller segment regarding this topic, and I understand that you need to keep everything calm and cool because of your large platform and everything, and I can respect that.
Right.
But I did some research over the weekend, not using the television, but using the internet, and I have discovered that every single professional sniper, if there is such a thing, they're all saying this could not have happened if it wasn't for the help of somebody.
Okay.
Okay?
Let me give you, I'm going to let you go, but I want to offer just a counter right in here real quick, though. I don't look at this young man, though, as if they wanted to really kill Trump, would they have used this kid who apparently was a lousy shot?
Well, they sure can't use, like, somebody connected to the government, right?
Okay, yeah. I just think they could have found someone who was a better shot than this kid because he did just a horrible job. But anyway, I interrupted you. Go on. I want to hear what you have to say.
No, I agree that they could have found somebody better, but like I said, I'm not a professional sniper, but everybody who, it's like if you want to figure out how, what's wrong with your car, you don't go and ask your dentist, you talk to mechanics.
Right.
So I went in that direction. And, we'll see how it shakes out, right? Because we won't find out tomorrow or next week.
Oh, sure.
But then, and I understand you got a lot more callers, but then you know how earlier you were saying that how do we win over the moderates and the Democrats for this upcoming election? I think we already have.
Okay.
I think if we could just practice or focus on accurately counting the votes, I think you'll see we already won them over.
Okay. I think I agree with you on that one. I do think, and we can win over even more of the moderates just because the left has gone so far crazy left that even moderate Democrats are not going to put on MAGA hats and start screaming Trump's name, but they just can't do the extremism anymore. Now, are you moving from Illinois?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you still going to come here? Is that still your plan?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm still coming here. The last couple of years listening to your show, it seems that Wyoming is still the state that I'm looking for. You got to go to we got to move to higher ground, right?
Right.
And I think Wyoming is a great place if that's your intention.
I'm asking you that because I have actually quite a few friends in Wyoming that have moved from Illinois. Now, have you heard me talk about the Wyoming citizenship oath that I wrote?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So we'll make sure to mail that to you.
I love it. I love it.
What do you do for a living?
I am a professional auto technician and a master electrician who's self-employed.
Okay. As far as we need loads of auto technicians out here. Have you found a job yet?
I have several opportunities that I'm contemplating.
Okay.
We're just trying to find the right place. There's not a lot of property for sale in Wyoming.
I understand. The reason I asked that is a very good friend of mine and a fellow pilot is a electrician who owns his own company in Casper, Wyoming, and he is constantly struggling to find good electricians. It is so far hard for him to find someone and keep them. So you get into town, if you're still looking for work, I can hook you two up.
I tell you what, I might take you up on that offer, and I do appreciate you taking my call.
Absolutely. Thank you, Sean. I appreciate it. Okay, so we just got to make sure to properly vet Sean before he moves into the state. Now, I have heard, and I understand as you folks go looking around for answers, that's why I'm letting anyone who might have what I'll call a conspiracy theory talk. Jude was very good with, she has a whole long theory that she called earlier this morning about, and I let her go on about it, if that's what you think. I disagree. Now, as far as he had help, so far the FBI is saying it looks like he acted alone, but they're not ruling it out. They're still going to check to see. That's where they're at. The FBI is at right now. I still think, though, if somebody really wanted a sniper to take out Trump, they wouldn't have gotten this kid. He's 20 years old and obviously is a lousy shot. Because he shot multiple times, apparently, from what my understanding. Correct me if I'm wrong. My understanding is he shot multiple times. And the best he did was nick the ear. A good shot would have taken, someone who was really good at it, would have just taken one shot. All right. So, and even where the kid was, I mean, yeah, he was able to get up on a building within sight, and I still want to know why the FBI or the Secret Service didn't have people on that building too. But anyway, they did find him alone up on that building over there. But a real good sniper would have found a place that would be a better hiding place as well. So the kid's not professional on any level. That's why I discount the idea that he had all sorts of help, unless you're talking about people who have no idea what they're doing. Because, again, this kid obviously didn't know what he was doing. All right. 888-97 Woods, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. Yeah. I.D. John says, Dan Bongino show on KGAB ought to be interesting today. Milo in Fort Danger. Glenn, it was not a terrible shot. It was a headshot. 2 inches. Yeah, but he missed. I think, Milo, you and I are going to disagree on that. I think this kid was just a lousy shot. I really do. Anybody who really knew how to do it would have succeeded one shot. But this kid couldn't do it. So you and I don't believe or don't agree with each other on that theory. So Wake Up Wyoming.
Friday.
Like a strong cup of coffee in the morning. Tasteless, but it'll get you through the day. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
9:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name's Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. Just one topic today. I bet you can guess what it is. 888-97 Woods, the phone number, 888-97-WOODS. And other people besides calling the show are using the Wake Up Wyoming app to text me. Go to your app store, type in Wake Up Wyoming. It's that simple. And then there's a toolbar that you'll find across the center. If you hit the chat mode, you can send me text messages. So let me see. Oh, there's quite a few that have just started coming in again. Let me get down to Tess in Wheatland. Morning, Tess. Tess says, in the first story I saw, they were saying the kid, the shooter, was registered Republican, even though apparently he did donate to liberal causes. I think they were going to frame it that Trump is so extreme that his own followers are turning against him or something along those lines. Yeah, one of my thoughts was, are those people out there who are anti-Trump going to say, well, Trump basically had this done, conspiracy theory again, just to get a sympathy vote? You can just imagine someone pulling that one. Let me see. Jude, go through your messenger information. I will. A little bit later, Jude, I will. Chet in Yoder. At first, some media reported the shooter was extreme right-winger and a rifle club and such. Later, we learned registered Republican was not allowed into the gun class. Okay. Well, see, my thought, I'll say this again, for those people who were wondering about, did he have help? What kind of, was there some kind of a plot? Well, the FBI is still looking into that, even though the FBI is saying probably not. But they'll still look into it anyway, just in case, which I understand and I agree with. But I take a look at, if someone was trying to do a professional job, even though the gun he was using was a good gun, they would have picked something that would have been better for the task. That, and it looked to me like, and this is where Milo, you and I disagree, I don't think the kid's a good shot. Because someone who's really a good shot would have only needed one shot. Hey, even if Trump was moving around and so on, he would have just needed one shot. This kid was shooting multiple times, and, so you get the idea. I just don't think the kid was working with anyone. But now, I might change my mind, because remember what I said at the beginning of all of this. Whenever you're listening to the news, the first things you hear are wrong because there's a lot of confusion, and so a lot of speculation too. Even among the news media, politicians, you are speculating and getting it wrong. So the first things are wrong. And wait. So this is what I'm thinking so far, who this kid is, and at some point, maybe a week or so from now, you might hear me say, on second thought, I think this. But where I'm at right now is I think the kid was a lone shooter that was going to snap at something. And there was a political rally in the area and, a high-end figure, and so that's what he went for. Diane is in LaGrange. Hello, Diane.
Hi. This is a little bit change on the subject, but this morning I heard that the Secret Service gal that's in charge of them has a goal to have half women in the Secret Service, where
right.
They have no common sense at all. In Wyoming we call it horse sense.
Right.
What is the matter with those
right.
people?
Everything,
they're just
including our military, has to go all DEI rather than just pick the best people for the job.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I just, it scares you to death that they have those kind of people and those kind of thoughts in charge.
Mm-hmm.
And then some nut like this does something like that. Well, they'll probably, how can they find out when they can't even keep their own organization in check?
Right.
I don't know. It's a crazy country. Trump needs to get it straightened out, and that's all I have.
All right. Thank you, Diane. I appreciate it. Now, I've heard that, too, that even the Secret Service wants to get into the whole diversity, equity, and inclusion thing. And that's something actually I've been saying and I know you have too, for many decades, which is, look, when you go to hire someone for a job, you hire the person that's best suited for the job. So what if when we went and tested people and found out that the best Secret Service agents were a bunch of really hot supermodels? Then, well, okay, if that's the best Secret Service agents, I know Trump would love it, hire them if that's the case. But if it turns out that they're just a bunch of really big, burly white guys, are those the best Secret Service? If that's what it turns out to be, but forget all of that. Just test people all based on the same standard, and what you get is what you get. Those are the best. Don't say we need something that looks diverse. You don't need it to look anything. You need it to be the best. Let's see. There's a few other people dropping me notes. The Paisan is in Casper. I also agree with you in that the kid was a couple of bubbles off. Oh, I like that. He's a couple of bubbles off the plum. He was going to snap and do something, and he probably knew this was a suicide mission that he was going on. Well, okay, so here's someone who's dealing with or agreeing with me. I'm sorry, I'm still stuck on he's a couple of bubbles off plum. I like that. He was going to do something, and he probably knew this was a suicide mission that he was on, but he wanted to go out, no pun intended, with a bang, and thought this was the way to do it. Very possibly. Yeah, so far, that's the camp that I'm in right there so far. But again, remember, and I know I'm repeating myself on this, but the first thing we always hear is wrong, and a lot of speculation that you get is wrong, and I don't care who you're hearing it from, it's wrong. Wait until more information comes in. And I caught myself several times on Saturday telling myself this, because right away my mind starts going places. Well, I think this has happened. That's probably, I bet you this is what's going on. And I had to keep telling myself, but I don't know that. That's why I said earlier today that I had friends who were very emotional about this. Some were just angry. I mean, just mad as hell. And others were not angry. They were almost in tears, wondering what's going to happen with their country. And I get the emotional outpouring on something like this, but this is where I say whatever your level's on, just stop. And it's also a good idea just to turn on, and I do mean this, if you want the latest information on what's happening, yes, you can go ahead and tune into some news channel, okay, but don't keep it running. If I can give you some advice, don't keep the TV running all day. I don't care what network you picked. They keep dragging out commentators. They keep saying, well, our expert here's the latest expert in whatever that expert is in. But even those experts don't know what they're talking about because they have the same information you do. Yeah, they might have a better perspective than you, but they have the same information you do, so they don't really know what they're talking about. But they're supposed to fill the airtime, aren't they? So they go on and on showing the video over and over and over again, and that means the speculation gets worse and worse and worse. Which is why I say a good idea is to do what I was doing yesterday and Sunday. I would go check the news websites that I follow, apps that I follow on occasion, and I would turn on the television on occasion just to see if anything new had popped up. And if not, I'd turn it back off. Because if you keep listening to everybody who's speculating, well, that's when your mind goes into all sorts of weird places. And again, whoever you are, whatever you're thinking, at this point, most of what you're thinking still isn't true. We're still getting more information in. Wait till it all comes in and then start connecting your dots. 8:45, wake.
This show contains sarcasm that some listeners may find disturbing. A sense of humor is advised. Chat with Glenn live on the Wake Up Wyoming app.
Eight 48's the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Off we go to the icebox. Frank Gambino's waiting by. Frank, I'm going to get myself in trouble here.
Again?
Yeah, well.
All right.
I'm going to tell him, Miss Mary.
Oh, no.
Well,
you'll never regret
Can't
that,
live
right?
this down. Here's what happens. So she gets up in the morning. She's just showing me this. And she'll go ahead and get herself a nice drink, something that she's enjoying, whatever she makes herself. I always have to have the cup of coffee, whatever she's making.
Yeah.
And then she brings it to work as she's sipping on it.
Okay.
And then as she's done with it, she puts it behind her on her desk. And then the next morning she gets up and pours herself another drink and brings that glass to work.
Okay, so now she has 2 glasses.
Yes. And by the end of the week...
She has 5.
Yes. And within 2 weeks...
10?
Yep. This is just piling up. And eventually she gets home and realizes she has a problem because she wants to pour something into a glass. But
and she has no glasses.
They're all at work.
So I think we solve this by getting a cardboard box from one of the liquor stores and say, you take this home.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Wash your glasses.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Now me, I keep the same one here.
Yes.
And it hasn't been washed.
No. Oh, gross.
No.
That's just
no. When you're drinking, when you're drinking coffee, you want to get that those grounded,
well-seasoned coffee
thing
cup
right there,
right,
and you can just tell that that's the coffee's only been in there.
What do you do if you're someone who likes to make your drink at home and enjoy it on the way to work?
Okay, then I would buy a big thing of those plastic cups or the cups that like coffee shops kind of sell. They got to have them in stores.
You're right.
Buy 200 of them for $6.
My thought would be to make sure, this is why you see me when I'm walking in out of work, I have that little, like a briefcase bag.
Yeah.
And anything that I bring to and from work is always in that bag to and from. So she should have something that when she's leaving, she takes that cup and puts it in that bag and goes home with it.
Yeah, just get
Make it a habit.
Yeah, just get the ones that the coffee shop serve.
In the meantime, if anyone would like to sort through a collection of glasses, by the way, they're all dirty, Frank.
Yeah.
None of them have.
So you got to put them in the dishwasher twice.
She's got to take you. You can go ahead and just take all you want from Mary's desk. Just make sure they're clean when you get home.
Oh boy. In American Legion baseball from over the weekend, the Cheyenne Sixers were in the Fort Collins tournament. They beat Fort Collins on Friday 4-1 and Greeley, Colorado 11-8. Then on Saturday they lost to Regis, Colorado 8-3, and then on Sunday they lost to Arvada, Colorado 6-1. Now Laramie AA Rangers in that tournament as well. They lost to Arvada 11-3 and beat Loveland, Colorado 8-0 on Friday. Lost to Fort Collins on Saturday 10-2 and lost to Rocky Mountain from Colorado 13-7 on Sunday. Casper Oilers were up in that Bozeman, Montana tournament. On Friday, the Oilers beat Nampa, Idaho 11-1. On Saturday, they won twice, beating Kalispell, Montana 6-4, and Idaho Falls Knights 6-1, but lost to Bozeman in the championship game of that tournament 18-10. In Major League Baseball, we're at the All-Star break, and the Colorado Rockies are 34-63, just about as bad as we thought they were going to be. However, they defeated the New York Mets on the road 8-5 yesterday, hitting 6 home runs in the game. Michael Toglia hit 3 of them. In the high school athletics, the Wyoming Coaches Association All-Star Games will be on Saturday in Casper at the T-Bird Gym at Casper College at 1 p.m. for volleyball, 3 p.m. for girls basketball, and 5 p.m. for boys basketball. In rodeo, the Central Wyoming event wrapped up on Saturday. Chase Mayfield from Midwest won $1,323 as winning the all-around, competing in the tie-down roping and the steer wrestling. In the bareback, Rody Farrell from Thermopolis finished 4th with $166.5 on 2 and won $1,244. Ethan Mazarenko of KC with $164 on 2 to put him in 6th, so he won $565. In team roping, Kellen and Carson Johnson from Casper with a 10 and 7 on 3 and 2 and won $1,355 each. So that's a pretty good round for them. And former Natrona County High School track star Lauren Tauber will be competing for Team USA in the heptathlon in the Thorpe Cup this weekend in Germany. It's kind of like a Ryder Cup like golf, as heptathletes and decathletes from the U.S. will take on the Germans in a 2-day event. Gasper native was an All-American decathlete at Kansas State University, but did finish 13th at the Olympic trials in the heptathlon in Eugene, Oregon recently. She missed almost 3 years of competition with various injuries, so that's quite a comeback story for Lauren Tauber. That's it in sports.
I would like everybody to go to the Wake Up Wyoming site this morning and take a look at Frank's photo gallery on mutton busting.
Yes.
Oh my Lord, those are some great
those kids. I mean, you know, they're literally hanging out for dear life.
Oh my Lord, yeah,
and the crowd loves it.
I love it when I see one of these kids take a pretty good spill, and they get up and walk it off better than some of the adults do, and then they want to get back on and do it again because by golly, no fuzzy sheep is going to beat them.
On the other side, they're next in line, and they go. I don't think so.
Yes, yeah. And then Mom, of course, is freaking out.
Yeah, and then Dad's got his phone out.
Yeah, that's right. It's a great photo gallery, Frank. It really is. All right. So, no, I am very serious about that. Go to the Wake Up Wyoming site. Miss Mary will alert it out at some point. Bunch of kids at the fair and rodeo, mutton busting. Oh, it's great stuff. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Six at the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. My name is Glenn Woods. Thanks for joining me. Okay, I got some people who agree, some people who disagree with me. That's what the discussion's all about.
Today's show is sponsored by Armpit Hair Dye, because waving goodbye should be more colorful.
And that's actually the case, that some people do color their armpit hair because they're trying to stand out. Hey, whatever you're into. Okay, Trump fans, all rise. Hats off, hands on your hearts. All together now. And you may be seated. Okay, so we're going through what happened on Saturday with the attempted assassination of Trump that did not work out so well. And I'm of the mindset, as I take a look at it, that it really, from what the evidence I have right now, was a lone nutball that was going to do something somewhere, be it shoot up a mall, be it shoot up a school, Oh, look, here's a political rally. There's Trump. Hey, we'll go ahead and try that. That's the evidence that I have right now. Hey, I might change my mind a little bit later, but right now that's the evidence. And I do say the first thing you hear and the first thing you think, don't believe it. Even when the conspiracy theorists come out or the experts on the television stations, they don't know either. I will agree, though, that the rhetoric in this country from all sides has gotten way out of hand on all sides, and that's got to be toned way the hell down. But here's some of the comments I'm getting. And I don't mind people who disagree with me. Chet in Yoder says, so you're saying wait and see, they want us to think. I want you to think, Chet. I don't know about they, but I want us to think. So, yeah, the first thing you think of when you see something like what happened Saturday, and the first thing I think of, and the first thing reporters think of, is usually wrong. Wait till more evidence comes out. I do think that this shooter, for those who are trying to say, well, he had help, it was more of a conspiracy. Well, if they're going to do this, then they need to get someone who's actually a good shot. Now, some people disagree with me on this, but let's try Mike in Wheatland. Glenn, the proof that the kid was a bad shot is simple. A counter sniper took him out with one shot from a distance. Now, several people have sent me this. Hang on a second. So you're saying they want us to think? Okay. JP in Cheyenne. And JP, you're not the only one who sent me this note. What if the shooter was good, Trump turns his head and his ear gets hit? Now, here's my answer to that. Do me a favor if you're listening right now, and nobody's looking so you don't look weird, right? So imagine Trump is looking straight ahead at the audience, right? Okay, take your finger and put it right on the side of your head. I mean, just above, about where your ear would be, but right on the side of your head. So you're going for a headshot, right? Okay, now hold your finger there. Now turn your head to the right. Where's your finger now? You'll find that your finger is now right between the eyes. So if Trump simply just turned his head, then instead of getting hit in the side of the head, he would have gotten shot right between the eyes. Okay? I think the kid was just a bad shot. Jan and Cheyenne, I'm leading a sheltered life as I have not seen comments from any Dems but Obama. That is a sheltered life. Dave and Casper, please excuse my bad grammar and spelling. I'm on my phone at work. Oh, you know what's even worse than that? Voice to text. I mean, that's horrible. All right, let's go to Cheyenne. Micah's on the phone. Morning, Micah.
Good morning. You know what's aggravating me, and maybe it's out there and I just haven't seen it yet, but, you know, people keep talking about how he's registered as a Republican, but he's donated to liberal causes.
Right.
And, you know, we are so determined to pigeonhole everything. Everything is black, white.
Right.
You know, it's got to be liberal. It's got to be conservative. It's got to be this. It's got to be that.
Right.
So what I want to know is, what were those liberal causes? Because in my mind, you know, there are some things that I donate to that some people would probably say, well, that's not along Republican lines. And so they would throw it into the liberal side. Whereas actually it's just my own ethics, you know, my own upbringing. A lot of these things are regional or whatever. So instead of just throwing out that he's donating to liberal causes, I'd like to know what they are, because maybe in my mind, they're really not liberal causes.
And I think that's a really good point. And even for that matter, he may have gone ahead and registered as a Republican at some point, but did he even know what that meant? Did he even vote at all? I don't know. So far, they haven't found...
I would like to think that I really don't align totally with any political party. I align more with the Republicans, so that's what I'm registered as.
Okay.
Because I would rather be able to participate in that primary voting than the other side. But that doesn't mean that at some point there's going to be candidates to where I would switch and be on the Democrat side, you know, so that I would have a say in who that person is who's elected. But, you know, really, to me, it's the character of the people. But, you know, this labeling stuff back and forth, was the guy really in that case? Well, obviously he was. But my impression of a real nutcase, I mean, that guy would have been up there like with a machine gun and, you know, like that guy did a year or so ago, and just, you know, take out a whole bunch of people.
Yeah.
So is he disturbed? Oh, absolutely. But would I call him a total nutcase? I don't know. You know, I mean, is he one of those people that that did something really stupid, but if he were still alive and if he got, attention, and 20 years from now, would he even be the same person? Would he be changed? Would he be somewhat healed?
No.
So we're saying all of this, and he's 20 years old. Sure, there's a lot of 20-year-olds that are very, very, very mature, but there's still an awful lot of them that aren't.
Well, and the point that he's not around anymore, we're not going to be able to get a total psychological profile, so we're going to have to go by what people around him experienced and thought. That's the best we're going to get, which is not going to be 100% accurate. But that goes back to, again...
and I've also not heard a word about, does he have parents?
Yeah.
I would assume that he's got parents.
This is why, again, I'm saying...
It's so funny, the things that are not being really brought out.
We're going to have to wait a bit until we get a better profile to know what's really going on. That's really...
But on this one, I side with you, because if it were a conspiracy thing, come on, those groups have plenty of money. They're going to hire the best that they can find. It's not going to be some 20-year-old who scrambles up onto a roof where people can blatantly see him do it.
Right. That's okay.
The whole thing.
I got to run. Thank you.
A professional job.
Heading on over to Greg and Laramie. Good morning, Greg.
Good morning, Glenn. On the road.
Yeah.
Just past KC. I'm with you. I think I've heard more about what the shooter is and what happened during your show than I've heard all weekend. A guy using a 5.56 as a sniper seems kind of weird to me.
Yeah.
Seems I would bet the person that took him out probably had a Barrett 50
Oh,
caliber.
my God, yeah.
And, yeah, so I look at him probably just, a lone wolf who was bullied, decided to kill the bully in chief.
Yeah,
And probably was an opportunity. It wouldn't surprise me if he'd been in that building before.
That very well could be.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, this is why I said also that when you take a look at so far what little we know about what was in the house that he was living in, if he's got materials that you're making bombs with and perhaps some other guns and things like this, at some point he was going to hit something. The fact that there is a rally with Trump at it nearby is the perfect thing to go hit. If it wasn't that, it probably would have been a school or a church or something like that.
I think I'm with you on that. I also think, if he does have these whatever, he didn't have enough money to buy the right weapon for the job.
Right. Yeah.
To me, so we'll see what we'll see what happens.
But let's do this again. 7:15 is the date at 9:15 a.m. Greg and I agreed on something.
Well, Glenn, it'll happen a few more times. We'll see.
Yeah.
If I make it through this next couple weeks.
Okay. Thank you.
We'll see what happens.
All right. Thank you, Greg. Appreciate it. It's Wake Up.
Download the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. Listen anywhere and chat live with Glenn during the show on AM 1030 K2 Radio.
$9:21's the time, and the phone number is 888-97-WOODS. That's 888-97-WOODS. I'm letting you get out of your system whatever's in it. That's why when people who are disagreeing with me call, I'm just letting them go ahead and say whatever they want, which is I tell you what's really disturbing to me. One of the guys who agreed with me was Greg. Okay, that's weirding me out. Gus in his truck. Hello, Gus.
Hey, good morning, Glenn. I listen to you every day since we've lost Brian. I work in Wyoming in a company truck, and I travel all over, and I have a little comment to make about this Trump shooting.
Okay.
So, I'm not really into social stuff. I kind of watch it here or there.
Mm-hmm.
The donation made by this young man, come to find out it's another man with the same name in, I want to say Pennsylvania. He's 62 years old that made the $15 distribution money to the left side cause.
Okay.
And then the gun was his father's gun, and I was in the Corps, and that's not a very long shot for a 5.56. A lot of snipers use, and counter snipers use 5.56. You can see the round.
Yeah.
You can adjust, and that's really not a bad pick for something that far. You can shoot much farther with a 5.56.
Okay.
Especially what weight grain bullets the guy's shooting.
Mm-hmm.
So, and maybe buck fever you're going to be nervous. You're shooting at a man, let alone a human being, and the ex-president of the United States. You're going to be really, really nervous. So it's going to be pretty tough to make a shot. And they would not want to hire a professional because they want to eliminate what happened. If there is this conspiracy that people may think that the left put him up to it or whatever, they let him get on the roof, they did this or that, this maybe will come out or maybe it won't come out. But they would probably want someone like him that they can get rid of. And I doubt if the counter sniper guy used a 50 cal. The weapon in the pictures does not look like that.
Right.
Supposedly he was, for 3 minutes or so, he was ready to take the shot, and he kept getting told on his comms, no, stand down. And, and then they're saying, no, he could have shot. So who knows what's really going on.
Right, yeah. That's why I often say wait until we get more information, because there's all sorts of stuff flying around right now, and you don't know which is correct or not. So we just need to wait a bit.
Correct. But back to the 5.56, yeah, that's really not that bad of a round for something like that, for that distance.
Well, I got a note here off the app from Smokey in Casper. He said, more proof the guy was, in fact, not a good shot. That's 130 yards. He said, I was making 150 to 200-yard headshots on deer that were moving when he was 14 to 16 years old. So he said a 130-yard static shot should be easy.
Oh, 400 yards with 223 5.56 is not really, that's nothing. You can shoot farther than that. And then also they said that the weapon came from his dad, who got it on a site from Lake Nevada. And is it a short barrel rifle, long barrel rifle? So that's how he acquired the rifle, I guess. And his folks are registered libertarian.
Right.
Maybe this guy was going to vote, because he hasn't voted yet. He voted Republican, or registered, Republican. Because that does happen. To get in the primaries, people will change their stuff around to do this or that.
Well, and also to give you,
this young man.
Yeah, I'm not gonna guess what his political affiliation is based on his parents.
It doesn't matter.
No, but to give you an idea, though, I am more of a libertarian thinker. However, when I got to Wyoming, I'm thinking in Wyoming there's probably 10 libertarians. So when it came time to register to vote, even though there's a Libertarian Party presence in Wyoming, how often do they even run for anything? So in that case, Gus, what I end up doing is registering as a Republican and working within the Republican Party to try to help them stay more limited government. But if there was more of a libertarian presence in Wyoming, I would be registered as a libertarian.
Yeah, I was an independent forever. I want to vote for who can do the best job.
Yeah.
I am a registered Republican now and have been for quite a few years. I'm just disgusted with this whole mess of the politicians that point the finger at each other. They're all pretty, I shouldn't say all, that's a pretty broad statement.
But a lot of them are pretty bad.
Our government is just way too big.
Oh, yeah.
They got their nose and fingers in way too much of our stuff.
Okay. Hey,
term
Gus,
limits need to be assessed.
That's a great call, Gus. Thanks for calling in. I appreciate it. All right, so 888-97-WOODS, the phone number, 888-97-WOODS. And I'm going to say it one more time since we were talking about this. For those who said, well, Trump turned his head. I thought so, too. I'm just going to give you this experiment one more time for those who didn't hear it earlier. I just thought of this, and you tell me if you think I'm wrong about it, okay? So they're saying, some people are saying the kid missed because Trump turned his head. Really? Okay, Trump is facing the audience. His nose is pointed at the audience in front of him. Put your finger up just behind your temple to make it like a mid-head shot. Okay. Now, holding your finger there, turn your head to the right. If Trump had turned his head, he would not have wound up with a nick taken out of his ear. He would have wound up with a bullet between the eyes. Try that experiment and see what happens. All right. So I don't think that the kid missed because Trump turned his head. I think the kid missed because he was a bad shot. And as several people who know these guns, like the gentleman we just have on the phone, but also several other people on the app who know this gun, who've even gone hunting with the gun. And our liberals go crazy. You can't hunt with one of those guns. People do it all the time. Will tell you that they take shots that are much farther distance than that all the time and are pretty accurate with it. So this kid couldn't do it. So that's why I say amateur. This leads me to believe amateur. Now, I said that, but hang on. Remember what I said at the beginning of this. But how much do I really know right now? No more than you. And so that's why I say, hey, given some time, you might hear me say something different later on if more information comes out. I'm just basing what I'm telling you on the information I have in front of me right now. All right. And I am rejecting, this is why I turned off the televisions in most news organizations, because which conspiracy theorist you want from what point of view depends on what television network or website you go to. There's all sorts of different conspiracies, and everybody thinks they have a corner on the truth on this one. Coming up on 9:30, local news coming your way. After local news, update on the weather forecast. You and I get back into it again with another stretch of open phones. These are great calls today, whether you agreed with me or not. These are great calls today. Thank you for that. 888-97-WOODS, the phone number. 888-97-WOODS. Wake up, Wyoming.
Friday.
Got something to say? Call 888-97-WOODS or chat with Glenn on the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app from K2 Radio.
9:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Paul has been patiently waiting by through the news and information break. Hello, Paul. What you got for me? I'm doing good, but you're breaking up a little bit.
I'm sorry, I'm on the road heading up towards Scottsbluff.
Oh, that's all right.
I agree with you. The guy has a nut job. There's no doubt of that. As an objectivist, you know my...
Yeah. Oh, I think I lost Paul. Okay.
Can you hear me?
Now you're back. Okay, give it one more try here, because I know you're way out there. Try it again.
It's all these damn windmills.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
The guy's a nut job, obviously. There's no doubt about that. My concern is the aftermath, how it's going to be twisted and played. There's already people out there saying that it was staged, and of course they're
Nope, losing them again. All right, tell you what, Paul, I'm going to go ahead and let you go, and maybe if you can call me back when you're in a better range, and that'll have to be tomorrow, maybe the next day. We can get the whole comment in. But I'm going to take a little bit of what you just said there. Yes, there's already people, and I knew this was going to happen the moment I saw it on television. I knew somebody's going to say that Trump staged the whole thing. In fact, they just showed on the ridiculously large television that they have in my studio here, and they just showed a anti-Trump rally in front of where the Republicans are going to start holding their convention this week. And I'm looking at some people getting up on stage and yelling into bullhorns. You'd be happy to know there's not many of them there. But I wanted to hear what one of them had to say because she looked so angry. And she right away, as soon as I tuned in, I hear her talking about the shooting this weekend, and she blames Trump and his rhetoric for Trump getting shot. That's part of what Paul is talking about right there. And the aftermath is absolutely true. In fact, I can run through different things that both political parties have been saying and other people outside of political parties have been saying, where Trump is Hitler, and I mean, on it goes. You understand. That's why I turned off so much of the rhetoric a long time ago. Quit watching The View. All of the television networks from Fox to CNN to MSNBC, the kind of nut jobs they bring on for rhetoric. These people are paid to say outrageous things, and that doesn't help. The politicians, and I'm not going to say the politicians in this party or that party, both the major political parties, and then there's other groups out there as well, which again are just nut jobs. And they hire the most outrageous people. In fact, we as Americans sometimes elect some of the most outrageous people who say the most outrageous things. And I'm not just talking about Trump, I'm talking about Biden too. And none of that is good. Which is why I at least will give Trump credit for this. We'll see how it plays out in the convention, which starts tonight. Is he decided to go ahead and change his speech, not about attacking Biden, but he wants all of the speakers during the Republican convention instead to talk about unifying America, which is more of a positive message. I think that's a good idea. I would rather hear that from both political parties. But yeah, a lot of the angry rhetoric has gotten way out of control, and I think Paul is right in the sense of, and where do we go from here? Reefers in Carpenter, Wyoming, ex-President Donald J. Trump still does not have full presidential protection for the Secret Service, and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. still has none. Secret Service Director Kim Chide should have been fired. Yeah, okay. We can go ahead and go back and take a look at what should have been done. I've even heard that, why didn't they have drones up looking for people? That's a good idea. Hindsight 2020, and it's a good idea to go back and take a look at what went wrong and what we can do better. That happens every time there's an incident. What went wrong and what we could have done better. But I have to close this out today, what little we could hear of what Paul was saying, I have to agree with. And where do we go from here? I think is a big part of this. And part of it is also rejecting extreme rhetoric no matter where it comes from. All right, we are Americans. If anything, we should come together as Americans. That doesn't mean you have to put on a MAGA hat and start screaming Trump's name. That's not what we're talking about here. And we can certainly have different points of view on different issues. That's fine. The idea of being an American is individualism. You, in this country, get to live your life as you see fit, and government's job is to protect that. Nobody should be here to tell you how to live your life. Okay? And both parties have been guilty of that. Nobody should be here to tell you how to live your life. Government's job is to protect you so you can live your life. Government should be, as a caller said earlier today, government should be a lot smaller than it is right now, and should focus on ensuring our freedoms and liberties rather than, as government often does, getting involved in our business and ginning up the rhetoric, as they tend to do, as both political parties tend to do. I am so sick and tired of the screaming match between the parties and the finger pointing. In fact, most of what I do when I get here in the morning looking for stuff to talk to you folks about, most of what I see I reject because it's just one website after the next, news and opinion, where it's just a drama fest. That's all it is, just nonstop drama. And most of it doesn't matter to you, so I don't talk to you about it. I wish news organizations would get back to actually covering news and not covering controversy and hype and drama. Oh, things would be so much better. You guys have been great today. Oh, Chet Yoder, Mike and Wheatland, Stage 3, Dead Guy. I'll have to get into some of these comments a little bit later. So Wake Up Wyoming.
Now, Glenn Woods fits in your pocket with the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. This is AM 1030, K2 Radio.
Futures are nourished, and everyone deserves to live a full life. Join the movement to end hunger at feedingamerica.org/actnow. feedingamerica.org/actnow. A public service announcement brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
.48's the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Off to the icebox we go. Frank Gambino is rolling in with us. So, Frank, I'm starting to make a list here of ads that I'm getting now that I am older, that I'm really offended that I'm getting them because I'm older.
Well, Geritol.
Yeah.
Centrum Silver.
Sure. That little blue pill.
That little blue pill, yeah.
Get a lot of those, yeah.
Anything with baldness.
And baldness,
things that,
depends.
Yeah.
That's a good one there, yeah. Oh, what are those energy drinks for old people?
Coffee?
No. but that's what you and I use. But those
we're good with that. Okay.
They're like a milkshake.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Splenda or Splendid or something like that. I don't know.
That, yeah. And why is it that every time I turn on a television show that I like, all of the ads are all those things, but also hearing aids?
Oh, yeah.
Glasses, senior assisted living commercials.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh,
that's the demographic of the show that you're watching.
I am not.
You are.
I go to. Here's what gets me. You've done this. You go to the grocery store and you think, God, that poor little old lady. She's so little and old. Then you realize you graduated high school with her.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
You know what? Senior citizen discounts add up here. They started at 755.
Right.
I'll take what I can get.
See, I was having a hard time when I, let's say, go to a fast food restaurant, and the kid behind the counter would call me sir.
Yeah.
I who's sir? I'm looking around for where sir is.
I only tell them my lawyer and my probation officer can call me sir, and that's it. Yeah.
That's about it. But then they start asking, this has only happened to me once so far, asking me if I want to use the senior discount.
You have to ask them.
Yeah, you see, because
that's the thing. You have to ask them.
Okay. Or they don't do that?
No. They're like,
I've only been asked that once, and I figured it's because I still look relatively youthful.
For your age,
I said relatively, yes.
For your age, yeah.
For my age, yeah. I've always looked much younger than my years.
For your age, yeah.
Yes, for my age, yeah. It's a relative kind of thing. Mm-hmm. All right. And then all my friends start dropping dead. This is how it goes, Frank.
I know. American Legion baseball from over the weekend. The Laramie AA Rangers in that Fort Collins tournament on Friday. They split their games. They lost to Arvada, Colorado, 11-3, and then beat Loveland, Colorado, 8-0. On Saturday, they lost to Fort Collins, 10-2, and on Sunday they were defeated by the Rocky Mountain team out of Colorado, 13-7. Cheyenne Sixers were in that tournament as well. On Friday, they defeated Fort Collins, 4-1, and Greeley, Colorado, 11-8. Then on Saturday, they lost to Regis, Colorado, 8-3, and then on Sunday they lost to Arvada, Colorado, 6-1. Casper Oilers were in the Bozeman, Montana tournament. They beat Nampa, Idaho on Friday 11-1. Then on Saturday they won twice. They beat Kalispell, Montana 6-4, and the Idaho Falls Knights 6-1, and then lost to Bozeman 18-10 in the championship game of that tournament. Major League Baseball, the Colorado Rockies over the New York Mets yesterday 8-5 on the road. The Rockies hit 6 home runs in the game, 6. Michael Toglia had 3 of them. However, the Rockies are still awful. They're 34-63 at the All-Star break, and that's exactly where people thought they would be. The Wyoming Coaches Association High School All-Star Games will be on Saturday in Casper at the college. On Saturday at 1 p.m., the volleyball match will begin. Then at 3 o'clock, it'll be the girls' basketball game. And at 5 p.m., the boys' basketball game. The Central Wyoming Rodeo wrapped up over the weekend in Casper. Jace Mayfield from Midwest won the all-around and $1,323 as he competed in the tie-down roping and the stir wrestling. Rody Farrell of Thermopolis finished 4th in the bareback with 166.5 on 2 and won $1,244. Ethan Mazurenko of KC, 164 on 2, good enough for 6th, and he picked up $565. In the team roping, Carson and Kellen Johnson of Casper finished in 10th place, and they won $1,355 each. Former Natrona County High School track and field star Lauren Tauber will be competing for Team USA in the heptathlon at the Thorpe Cup this weekend in Germany. It's kind of like a Ryder Cup kind of thing that they have in golf, but this time it's heptathletes and decathletes from the U.S. taking on the Germans in a 2-day event. Casper native was an All-American decathlete at Kansas State University, but did finish 13th at the Olympic trials recently in the heptathlon in Eugene, Oregon. She missed almost 3 years of competition with various injuries, so it's a tremendous comeback story for Lauren Tauber, so good luck to her this weekend in Europe. That's it.
And I would assume that Saturday was just jam-packed at the rodeo.
Oh, yeah, it was crowded, yeah. They had a little bit of rain, but, it didn't stop really anybody.
No, but a little bit of rain would have cooled it down just enough because Saturday got hot.
Yeah, rain here is really cold.
Yes. Yeah, so when it gets that stinking hot, and it was
It's just the water is still freezing cold.
Yes. Well, okay. What do you want? Warm water, Frank?
Well, that's what it is in Florida.
Yeah, that's true.
The rain is warm. It's like taking.
In fact, tap water that comes when you turn on the cold water and you tap at home in Florida, It's still warm.
Well,
it's not cold water that comes out of that tap. It's like room temperature.
Just throw it in the freezer.
For a while. That's
Yeah.
Florida for you. All right, thank you, Frank. Yeah, you barely have to use your water heater in Florida to take a hot shower. I mean, I grew up there. Trust me, I know. Guys, you were great today. I appreciate it. It's Wake Up Wyoming.